I remember when I was 14 or 15, one of the first jobs I got as a kid, young teenager, was working at McDonald's. I remember like going into work and, working and flipping burgers. I also worked the drive-thru, and I met some really, really cool people, and it was like the first of a series of jobs that I would have as a kid working at fast food restaurants. And I learned a lot of very valuable experiences. I learned how to be on time. I learned what a dollar meant, because, at the time, 5 and some change did not go very far. But I do remember what that feeling felt like. It reminds me a lot of that, movie Coming to America, where Prince Hakeem is working at McDougal's, and he's just so proud of the work that he's getting ready to do. Here it was, this prince from Africa who was having things given to him on a silver or golden platter, is now so proud to mop and sweep the floors and flip burgers at McDonald's. It's kind of crazy how these things kind of bring you back to a different point of life. Hey, what's going on, fam? My name is Tim Reddick, and I'm a husband, a father of 3 psychotic, crazy, little, amazing boys. I'm also a photographer, a filmmaker, and someone who will always doubt his doubts. I am, and probably always will be, consumed with how people fail and how they overcome failure to find success. So do me a favor, grab your favorite cup of tea. Today, I am drinking a little Earl Grey, and let's dig into failure and the creative process. I also remember when I was 14 or 15 years old, while I was just starting my first job working at McDonald's, my parents began the process of separating and divorcing. My mother, who has a master's degree in social services, had not worked in a couple of years due to the birth of my younger sister. And I remember my mother applying for jobs and not being able to really get the one that she felt that she needed in her field of study. And I remember coming home one day. Now, my parents had separated and I was in college. And I remember coming home one day, and I came home from school to see my mother wearing a McDonald's uniform. It's kind of crazy how things kind of all come around and about in a weird way. I mean, I remember this situation so super vividly. I also remember it was not the job that my mom wanted, but it was the job that she needed to make ends meet. So often, we as creatives have this expectation of what we or where we should be versus where we're actually going. Sometimes we need to find the job that will help sustain us versus having the dream job or the job that we think that we need. Now, this is all before social media, so there was no real shame because you didn't really communicate with a ton of people. And I guess at the time you would hope that you wouldn't run into people from your community as you were working. But I remember my mom being strangely proud of this job that she had just got. Because she had struggled to find a job. And it's just wild as we kind of think of today that our jobs and the things that we find the most pride in, the work that we create, is really built upon the expectations that we think our peers expect of us versus the expectation of being able to provide for our families. I remember this day of coming home. I remember this day of walking into the door from college, and I remember the conversation that I had with my mother. Now, my mother was almost 40, And keep in mind, my parents were young parents. They went to college and they worked through despite having a very young family. And I remember what my mom said to me, and she said, "I will do whatever it takes to make ends meet, and I will do anything by any means necessary to provide for my family." She then said, "Riddicks don't lie. Riddicks work for what we get, and Riddicks try our hardest at everything we do." And I want to kind of put a little caveat in this conversation. My mom was still using the same last name that we shared, but also she was using the same last name of a man who had just left her. My mother did not work at McDonald's for long, but she did until she found another job, and she did so proudly. And I kind of wanted to share this story with you because when we are working as a full-time creative, or when we are working, period, that we need to make sure and assure that we put everything that we do into that job. If the job is photographing a small elopement and not a gigantic wedding, if the job is just this little dinky project that you got for a couple of $100 versus the $1,000 project that you would have gotten doing something else, that you need to put your all into it, that you need to try your hardest and work your hardest, because on the other side of that, everything that you can do today will be a building block for what you will do tomorrow. And I will tell you this, part of the reason why I will never forget this moment is because it was a teaching moment for me. It was a moment of humility. It was a moment of seeing what hard work looks like. And it was a moment of feeling incredibly proud of my mother. And it will also be a moment that I will never forget. I want to repeat to you what my mother said to me at 15. We work for what we get, and we try our hardest at everything we do. And I want to encourage you, the creative who is listening to this, and even if you're not a creative, even if you work something else, if you're a pastor at a church, or if you are, a garbage man, or if you're a doctor or a lawyer, or if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's, that you try everything that you can to do your best job at the work you're doing. The last thing that you're going to want to do is to wake up and realize that you didn't try your hardest, because believe me, what you do in the dark will eventually come to the light. I've shared that before on the podcast, and I am a hard advocate of that statement. What you do in the dark will eventually come in the light. What you do when no one is looking will eventually come out in the light when people are looking. Listen, I know we're rolling into November and we're rolling into the holidays and we're rolling into spending more time with family or not with our family because of the whole COVID-19 situation. But I also know that the new year is coming around and we're starting to put into processes a bunch of different things. Like every year in January, we make these resolutions that we're going to get our sexy back, that we're going to get back in the gym, we're going to lose those stubborn 20 pounds, or that we're going to start our next big project, or you're going to make an X amount of money. We set these lofty goals that we're going to get back in the shape, that this is the year that you get back in better financial shape. This is the year that we are going to plan to make some serious money. This is the year that we work harder, we hustle harder, and our goal is to meet more people and do more things. This is the year that we make better business decisions. Well, we also realize that working to our goal is actually really, really hard. And what I mean by working to those goals, which means is that you may have to work at McDonald's. McDonald's is not below you. If McDonald's was not below my mom at 40, a store in the world is not below you right now. And your McDonald's may not physically be McDonald's. Your McDonald's may physically be a small job. Your McDonald's may physically be a job that you feel is beneath you. There's no job that is beneath you. Let me repeat that. There is no job that is beneath you. But if you're going to take on the job and you're going to do it, you need to do it to the best of your ability. Look, like I said, we realize that working towards our goal is actually really, really hard. And in January, we're going to make all these plans and these thoughts, and we're going to get all pumped up. And I wanted to drop this to you in your feed in November for a reason, because I want to kind of put this tickle in your ear that I know that you know that I know. After about a mere 4 weeks, we're going to fall back into doing the exact same things for us that didn't work in 2020 and 2021. So I want you to hang in there. Right now, I want you to hang in. We have roughly about 8 to 9 weeks left of 2020 before we turn the page on this really strange and awkward year. And we're going to look into setting up processes and setting up procedures that are going to help us today, that will eventually help us make it even easier to turn over into 2021. I've said this before, and I'm going to say this probably on every podcast, that nothing of value comes fast, but you can gain a foot over your competition by doubling down when your competition is quitting. So right now, we know that we're getting ready to fall into the holiday season, and we know that we are going to be spending time with families. This is the time for you where your competitors are starting to slow down. They're starting to get a little lackadaisical. They're starting to kind of like maybe, put the gear into neutral and kind of like just kind of coast into 2021, because they know in January they're going to attempt to ramp it back up. Now, today, friends, today, if you're listening to this podcast, today is the time for you to start ramping back up. And ramping back up may not be, going out and finding a lot of new work. Ramping up is maybe taking on some smaller projects, making some plans, scheduling some shoots that you can really kind of like explore these ideas and these thoughts that you have in your head while other people are slowing down. So when the January comes, you're punching somebody in the mouth with like a throat puncher of images. I think I heard that throat puncher thing from Jonathan Canlis is like, you want to make sure that you are setting yourself up today to be successful tomorrow. Today is the day that you need to double down when your competition is really starting to quit and slow things down. If you are really passionate about something, how hard you are willing to work to make sure you are successful really determines on how you plan and how you work when nobody else is looking. It doesn't matter if that passion is your family, your job, photography, making ceramics, becoming a better doctor, painting, or sports. The things that you need to do is you need to double down, create processes to make sure that you're successful tomorrow and into 2021. So this is a question that I want to leave you, and a question that I want you to ask yourself. Am I willing to do anything by any means necessary to become successful? I am, and I hope you are too. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, guys. I am sharing these personal stories because they are meaningful to me, and I hope they're meaningful to you as well. Thanks again for listening. I hope you're having a great week, and I will be in touch with you next week as we drop our next episode. Take care.